Welcome, my peeps. This is video podcast number 52. This is my first public podcast since I returned home from Orlando, Florida for the 21 convention. Had a great time. Had a real great time. It was a 4-day event, Thursday, September 28th through Sunday, October 1st. I spoke on that Saturday, September 30th. And interesting enough, I've mentioned before, I was actually the first African-American speaker they've had at this event in the 10-year history of this event. This was the 10th year anniversary event edition for this event. Now, I was not the first black speaker to be invited. There was another guy named Ed Lattimore. He's a boxer, but his schedule prevented him from making it. So I was not the first black speaker to be invited, but I was the first black man to speak at the event. And I had a great time. And speaking of race, the audience, the members who attended, was much more diverse than I initially anticipated. It was some brothers there, a lot of Asian guys, a lot of guys from Middle Eastern descent. Yeah, it was a wide range of races and ethnicities represented, as well as guys from different educational backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. It was overall a great event. So much props to Anthony Johnson, the chief organizer of the 21 convention. I didn't know he was that young. He started this event when he was like 17 years old. He was 17 years old when he started the 21. It was originally called the Under 21 Convention because he was under 21. Then it transitioned into being called the 21 Convention. He still has an event for men who are under 21 as well. All my relevant links are below. Relevant, important links are below. In this video, I'm going to do one for my Patreon subscribers. My Patreon link is below. As you know, I got to do my... I'm seeing a reflection in my glasses. Okay. Now, what happened? Huh, that's weird. It got fuzzy all of a sudden. There you go. Back to being clear. Shine, baby. Shine. This is my favorite vitamin water. But I've been drinking a lot of just regular water, Fiji water, bottled water. But I consider this my beverage dessert. Is vitamin water zero, has no sugar. Here's what I want to talk about real briefly, and then I'm going to do a Patreon exclusive video for my page. Oh, speaking of my Patreon subscribers, God bless your hearts. They have really been supporting me. I'm up to, I think, 113 Patreon pledge subscribers, with total pledges surpassing $1,300 a month. And so I want to give all of you all my most gracious and sincere thank you for your financial support and showing your gratitude for the knowledge, wisdom, insight, and general advice I give you guys. I appreciate all of you all. Appreciate all of you all. Now, it's interesting. Initially, all of my Patreon subscribers would co-sign with just about everything I say, but recently I've been getting a handful of disagreements on things, and I welcome those respectful disagreements. I don't have a problem with respectful disagreements. Yeah, like I did one video where I said that men shouldn't slut shame women, And I had a guy, one of my Patreon subscribers, he said he disagreed with that. He said he believes women who are highly promiscuous sluts should be shamed. So he offered a respectful disagreement. You know, I don't have a problem with that. Add some spice into my Patreon subscribers group. I gave some Patreon exclusive updates while I was in Orlando, Florida. Speaking of Orlando, shout out to my good friends Marlon Scott, Daryl Fry, D Fry I call him, and my frat brother Alpha Chapter Noop, Kappa Alpha Psi, Lamont Jackson. Got to hang out with all three of those brothers, man. Two of those three I hadn't seen in a long time. Well, really all three of them I hadn't seen in a little while. Daryl Fry, I hadn't seen him since 1982. It's a long time. It's a long time. You're talking about what, 35 years? Yeah, 35 years, man. I hadn't seen D Fry. Lamont, I hadn't seen him, my frat brother, probably since like 1988, 1989, at latest maybe 1990. And my friend Marlon, I hadn't seen him in at least maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years. Yeah, Orlando's nice. It's nice. That was my first time down there in a long time. Long time. Fellas, there's some eye candy in Orlando. Now, a lot of them are manipulative time wasters, but it's some serious eye candy in Orlando. Yeah, I met a lot of cool people. I met a lot of cool guys. My fellow speakers at the 21 convention were extra cool. Got a chance to chat with the infamous Ross Jeffries. Some people call him the first PUA ever in the attraction and seduction community. Ross Jeffries. Now, he and I have a lot of philosophical differences on dealing with women, and we even discussed those in our conversation. But overall, I give him respect, man. He's an intelligent, articulate dude, old school, seduction guru. Who else? I got to meet Rollo Tomasi for the first time. You know, I had interacted with him quite a bit through the internet, over the telephone, through emails, that type of thing. But it was cool meeting him in person, man. He's real cool, extra cool, extra cool. I mentioned Anthony, the chief organizer of the event. He was extra cool. A guy goes by the name Socrates was extra cool. A guy named Richard Cooper, I call him Coop, extra cool. Hunter Drew was extra cool. Ivan Thorne, extra cool. Guy named Goldman, extra cool, extra cool. I was impressed with Joe Navarro's presentation. Zan Perion, that our meeting had been a long time coming. Extra cool dude. Yeah, Zan, yeah. I've interviewed him twice on my Blog Talk radio show. Extra cool. Eric, aka Hypnotica, old school PUA. Yeah, matter of fact, he's going to interview me next week. He's real cool, extra cool. Johnny Saporno, who I'd done speaking engagements with, he was there. I hadn't seen him probably since 2013. Who else can I think of? It was a number of guys, man. All the speakers were good. I don't have any criticisms, really. There was 2 or 3 speakers I missed, though. I did miss. There was about 2 or 3 guys that I missed their presentation, so I wouldn't be able to evaluate their presentation. But everybody else I checked out, and they were pretty good. Yeah, all of them had something to offer the audience that I felt would resonate with the guys who attended the event. So, and the guys who attended the event were just super cool, man. Super cool. They gave me a lot of love, showed me a lot of love and respect. Yeah. One of my consultation clients was there. Surprised me. Yeah, I didn't know he was going to be there. Yeah, everybody I had a conversation with, man, was just extra cool, man. It was just an extra cool experience, man. Extra cool experience. And so I'm going to try to get an early excerpt of my speaking presentation so I can uploaded for my Patreon subscribers. I'll keep you posted. And 21 studios on YouTube will be releasing various clips from this year's event, as well as ultimately they'll release the full videos of each speaker's presentation. I look forward to that, and I look forward to you guys checking it out. Okay, now, the other issue I'm going to talk about on this free portion. Now, on my Patreon exclusive portion, I'm going to be talking about being more one with women that might be like co-workers, business colleagues, and at certain organizational events. Because I've been asked that question quite a bit in the last 2-3 weeks. So I'm going to address that in my Patreon exclusive portion. But for this free portion, I normally don't address things to do with celebrities. If you notice, I rarely address issues to do with like entertainment celebrities, professional athletes, just general people in the news. I try to stay away from that. Okay, I got distracted by a notification that came up on my computer. I want to briefly talk about the Cam Newton issue. As you know, Cam Newton, he's the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers in the NFL, the National Football League. And he recently came under fire for responding to a female reporter's question. He said he was surprised. He said he always felt it was funny to hear a woman, a female reporter, talk about routes, receiving routes. Here's my criticism, and here's my problem with the whole issue. On a critical note, yeah, that comment by Cam Newton was stupid. In today's day and age, now if we were talking about the 1960s, 1970s, to me that wouldn't have been that far off of a comment. Because most women back in the day, they really didn't know football. But nowadays, man, I know a lot of women who know football just as well as men do. So if nothing else, that was just a stupid comment on Cam Newton's part. Like, I got a good friend named Adrian. She's an alum of Ohio State. You know, Ohio State is big on football. Adrian, one of the reasons I'm close to Adrian, she knows just as much about sports as any man I've ever met in my life, and that's real talk. I mean, when it comes to sports-related terminology, whether it be basketball, football, a couple other sports, Adrian knows her shit. She's like a 5-time fantasy football champion in her city. She knows the difference between a man-to-man defense and a zone defense, a cover 2 defense. You know, she knows bump and run coverage. She knows about a play action fake or play action pass. You know, she knows about doing a dive play versus a, off tackle play. She knows the various routes. She knows deep route, post route, corner route, quick out, quick slant. I mean, we've been on the phone, man, and I've been actually surprised a lot of times and impressed by her knowledge of football. She's like that little kid in that movie. What was the movie with Denzel Washington? Remember the Titans? Remember the Caucasian football coach had a daughter who was really well versed in football knowledge? And she was only a little girl. That's how Adrian is. Adrian's very well versed in football. Shout out to my buddy Adrian. She used to listen to my Blog Talk Radio show just about every week. If you listen to my Blog Talk Radio show, you know who I'm talking about, Adrian. In the chat room, her name was Diva362636. Adrian knows, again, she knows football terminology backwards and forwards. So for Cam Newton to assume that in the year 2017 that women don't know football and aren't familiar with passing and receiving routes is just stupid and ignorant on his part. Just dumb. That was just dumb for him to say. Okay? Now, in his partial defense, And this is an issue I've been talking about for probably like 10, 15 years. I've written a couple of articles about it. A lot of women and people in society in general, there's three terms that a lot of people confuse and conflate. Confuse and conflate. They use them interchangeably when they're distinctively different. And that's the terms sexist, chauvinist, and misogynist. Sexist, chauvinist, and misogynist. A lot of people, and predominantly women, like to use those terms interchangeably. And they are, I would say, in some ways similar to each other, but they're not exactly the same. I'll start with sexist. Number one, a sexist is not exclusively a male term. As much as a lot of people in society would like for it to be, it's not. A woman can be a sexist. Let me repeat that. A woman can be a sexist just as much as a man can be a sexist. When you're a sexist, that means you have a discriminatory attitude towards members of the opposite sex. You do not feel like members of the opposite sex are as intelligent as your gender, as competent as your gender. You don't believe they have the same work ethic as your gender. You don't feel like they have the same talent set or skill set as your gender. So that would make you a sexist. For example, if I owned a company and 19 out of every 20 employees I hired were male employees, and the one woman I might hire her for like a real menial job that's way below her qualifications, that would make me a sexist. If I owned an apartment complex and I favored male tenants as opposed to female tenants, that would make me a sexist. If I was a bank loan officer and I routinely denied women bank loans but I always granted men bank loans, that would make me a sexist. Sexism is to gender what racism is to race and ethnicity. See, it's just like some people confuse being a racist with being simply racially prejudiced. Those are two different things. Anybody can be racially prejudiced. Anybody. You can be a white person and be racially prejudiced. You can be a black person and be racially prejudiced. You can be a Hispanic person and be racially prejudiced. You can be an Asian person and be racially prejudiced, and so on and so on. Any member of any race can be racially prejudiced. When you're racially prejudiced, that simply means you have some negative attitudes towards members of different races other than your own. You have a lot of harsh criticisms of people of other races. In some respects, you think they're inferior to your own race. That means you're racially prejudiced. When you're racist, it means you're racially prejudiced, plus you have the power and influence to deny members of other races some type of worthwhile opportunity, like a job opportunity, career opportunity, educational or academic opportunity, bank loan opportunity, a housing or apartment related opportunity. Anytime you're not only racially prejudiced, but you're in a position of power and influence that you can deny members of another race or ethnicity an opportunity that they're seeking, that makes you racist. That makes you racist. So back to gender related issues. When you're a sexist, that means you have the ability to deny. If you're a man, you have the ability to deny women an opportunity that they're seeking. Same with a woman. A woman could be a sexist. I'll give an example of each one. Common example, I already gave you an example of a man being sexist. Okay, going back to Cam Newton. If Cam Newton would have said to that same female reporter, I refuse to answer your question about routes because you're a woman, I prefer to answer that question from the mouth of a male reporter. That would have been sexist, what he said. That would have made what he said sexist. If you're a female judge and you're always awarding custody of children to women in a custody battle, and you rarely, if ever, award custody to male defendants, then that means you're sexist. You're a sexist female judge. I'm going to post a link to my image where I distinguish between sexism, chauvinism, and misogyny and misandry. Okay, you got sexism? Get it? Got it good. Now, moving on to chauvinism. Chauvinism is often confused and conflated with sexism. And they are very similar, but they're a little bit different. Again, sexism primarily has to do with denying members of the opposite sex some kind of worthwhile opportunity that they're seeking. The basis of sexism is that you don't feel members of the opposite sex are as intelligent as you, are as competent as your gender. You don't feel like they have the same talent level or skill level as members of your gender. You don't feel like they have the same work ethic as members of your gender. And you just generally think they're inferior to members of your gender. That's what it means to be sexist. Chauvinistic, that has more to do with masculine roles versus feminine roles. So, for example, if you're a man, you believe men should fulfill certain roles that you deem as very masculine, and you believe women should fulfill roles that you deem as very feminine. Again, similar to sexism, a woman can be a chauvinist too. That is not an exclusively male concept to be chauvinistic. I'll give an example of each. An example of a male chauvinist would be a man who believes that all women should avoid pursuing a career and instead be stay-at-home mothers, stay-at-home housewives, and take care of nurturing the children. And the husband in a relationship should be the breadwinner and the one who mows the lawn and takes care of a lot of the handiwork around the home. So if you were to say that to a group of people, that would make people would categorize you as a male chauvinist. On the female end, if you're a woman that even if you were making more money than your boyfriend, fiance, or husband, you were to say to your friends and acquaintances, I believe anytime a man and a woman go out on a date, that a man should pay for the date. That's a chauvinistic statement, whether you consciously realize it or not. And I've heard many women make that comment. Like I actually had an ex-girlfriend who we got into a heated discussion once. I was dating this woman. We were in the early stages of dating, and one time we went out to dinner, and I was in between jobs at the time. And she was making big money. She was actually a doctor. And she expected me to pay for the date. And I looked at her like, shit, are you crazy? I ain't paying for this date. I'm in between jobs. And she made a statement along the lines of, I think all men, the man should always pay for the date. Hell no. I've had a lot of women who have treated me to lunch, treated me to breakfast, treated me to dinner, treated me to a movie, treated me to a concert. I've said on many of my previous video podcasts, in my lifetime, starting with the age of 18 up until now, I've probably had women, all the women I've dealt with have spent a rough estimate of 3 times more money on me than I have on them. And that's the truth. Yeah, most of the women I've dealt with in my personal life, they've spent more money on me than I have on them. So I don't believe in this shit about men should always be the person who spends the most money. That's bullshit. Particularly if you're talking about a situation where a woman is making more, because I've dealt with a lot of women who are earning more money than me. So why would I spend money on them when they're making more money than me? So again, that's my example of a woman being a chauvinist. If you're a woman that you believe just because a man is a man, that he should always pay for the date, that's bullshit. That's straight up bullshit. That's a chauvinistic attitude. So that's what chauvinism is. Chauvinism is when you, whether you're a man or woman, you believe men should fulfill certain roles, particularly as it relates to romantic relationships, sexual relationships, non-professional relationships with members of the opposite sex. You believe men should fulfill certain roles, and you believe women should fulfill certain roles. That would make you a chauvinist. And finally, misogyny versus misandry. Now, just about everybody in society is familiar with the term misogyny, and a lot of women are quick to label a man a misogynist, but you don't hear the media use the term misandry too often. But I would say for every 3 men in society that are certified misogynists, there's probably 2 or 3 women in society that are certified misandrists. What is a misogynist and what is a misandrist? Both represent a passionate hatred for members of the opposite sex. So I'll start with misogynist. If you're a misogynist, that means you not only, that's to be distinguished from being a sexist or a chauvinist. Again, a sexist is when you're consistently seeking to deny members of the opposite sex worthwhile opportunities that they may be seeking. A chauvinist, a male chauvinist, would be a man who believes that women should fulfill certain feminine roles in society, and to one degree or another that they should always submit to and defer to men. A misogynist, that's when you just straight up hate women. And let me clarify. The misogynist is not a exclusively male term. It's predominantly a male term, but it's not exclusively a male term. In other words, a woman can be a misogynist as well. If you're a woman who has a hatred for members of your own gender, that would make you a misogynist. Yeah, misogynist is basically when you really don't want any interaction with women, period. Even sexual. Even sexual or romantic. You don't really want any interaction with women. If you had it your way, you would prefer not to socially interact with women at all, not to work with women at all. You don't want anything to do with women. In extreme cases, you want to see women suffer. You want to see them suffer some type of physical harm, some type of physical torture. You might want to murder them like a serial killer. You might want to kidnap women and torture them for days, weeks, months. That's a misogynist, is when you just passionately hate women. At bare minimum, you're always looking to insult women and antagonize women. Anytime you're always consistently looking to insult women and antagonize women, that also means you're a misogynist. That's a misogynist. So again, there's a difference between being a sexist, particularly a male sexist, a chauvinist, and particularly a male chauvinist, and a misogynist. Those are 3 distinct concepts. They have some similarities, but for the most part, they're distinctively different. On the female end, you can be a female sexist, you can be a female chauvinist, and you can be a misandrist. A misandrist is almost the female equivalent to a man being a misogynist. When you're a misandrist, that means you have a hatred for men. You have a hatred for the male gender. You don't want anything to do with men. And again, similar to misogynist, a misandrist is not exclusively a female term. In other words, a man can be a misandrist. If there is a man in society who has a passionate hatred for members of his own gender, that would make him a misandrist. So similar to a misogynist, you qualify for being a misandrist when you hate men so much you don't want any professional interaction with them. You don't want any personal or social interaction with them. You don't really want any sexual interaction with them. If you're given an opportunity, you want to verbally abuse men, physically abuse men. You might even want to murder them and or torture them. And at bare minimum, you always want to insult them and antagonize them. You always want to insult men and antagonize men. That would make you a misandrist. And again, in my strong opinion, misandry is not talked about in society nearly as much as misogyny is. And it should be, particularly in today's society, with all these hardcore radical feminists, who I call them femisandrists. That's what I call them. I don't even call a lot of these women feminists. I call them femisandrists. Combination of feminist and a misandrist. Femisandrists. That's what a lot of these women are. They're femisandrists. So that's some. Most of my video content is geared towards my male listeners and my male viewers, but this one is geared towards my female listeners and my female viewers. Keep that in mind. So, recap on Cam Newton. I don't think what Cam Newton said was sexist. I think it was two things. I think it was stupid. It was just flat out stupid. It was ignorant. It was stupid. Because again, there's a lot of women in society today that know about football just as much as men do. Number two, rather than categorizing his comments as sexist, I would say they were chauvinistic. His comments were more chauvinistic than they were sexist. He basically, by the comment he made, he was assuming that women shouldn't know about passing and receiving routes in professional football as much as a male reporter would. That's not sexist. That's chauvinistic. Again, sexist would have been if he would have said, I refuse to answer that question because you're a female reporter. I prefer to answer a question that comes from a male reporter's mouth. That would have made him sexist. Deny opportunity. Get it? Got it? Good. All right. My Patreon subscribers, I'm going to do a video for you about connecting with women at like business functions, women who might be college classmates of yours, women who might be in the same meetup group as you or some kind of club or organization as you. I'm going to briefly talk about that. All right. Hashtag women can be sexist and chauvinist too. Women can be sexist and chauvinist too. That's the hashtag. All right, my peeps. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.